Hey everybody, welcome back to the couch. I'm Melissa and this is Couch Mom Club. On my channel, you'll find tips and tricks to help moms get off the couch and into life. And in today's video, we are going to answer the question, what is a default parent? So recently the term default parent has been trending in the mom section of social media. This is a term that I've heard quite often, especially in recent time, and it is interesting to me. I think that the term kind of piqued my interest because I think I might be the default parent. But before I went ahead and labeled myself as the default parent, I wanted to know more. Because I endeavor to mother my children and to parent in the most authentic way possible, I thought, let me look into this. And I thought it would be beneficial not only to myself to define the term, but also to other parents who might be watching this channel. What is the default parent? The definition of default parent is pretty much the parent who takes on the lion's share of the day-to-day work of parenting. So if you find yourself doing things like preparing most of the meals, packing for overnight trips for the children, if you're doing things like keeping schedules for play dates and things like that, and knowing when appointments are without having to look at your calendar, you are likely the default parent. So this is basically the parent that does most of the inner workings of raising their children. Now, I don't mean the task of raising the children on a whole. I'm not talking about how you discipline or how you instill confidence in your children. I'm not talking about those things. I'm talking about the day-to-day work, the actual physical work. This means things like putting out clothing for them to be ready for school or to go to church, for example. It's things like that. Those day-to-day things. Who is responsible? If you're doing most of that work, then you might be the default parent. So of course, in my household, it's myself and my husband and our 3 children. And we each have things that we do naturally and things that we are more skilled at. Those things we don't have to question. We do what we're good at when it comes to raising the children and doing the work of parenting. But those tasks that don't particularly need any skills to kind of accomplish, those things that nobody really talks about, but they're needed and they need to be done by someone. Who is the person that takes on that responsibility without speaking? For example, the other day, my children were sick. And without thinking about it, I knew that I had to take the day off work to stay home with the kids. It wasn't something we discussed. It wasn't something that we had a contingency plan before time. It was just something that I knew would happen. I knew that the children were sick. I would stay home with them. We didn't discuss it. There was no, hey, should I stay home or should you stay home? It was just assumed that because they were sick, I would stay home. And that's exactly what happened. So I'm gonna ask 3 questions. And if you can answer yes to all these 3 questions, then you are likely the default parent in your home. Question number 1, when you have to leave the room, do you make an announcement? So for example, you and your family, you're in the living room, watching TV or watching a movie, and you have to get up and go pee, for example. Do you say, hey, I gotta go pee. Can you keep an eye on these children? Or can you ensure that she doesn't put that in her mouth? Whatever the case is, do you make an announcement before you leave the room? Question number 2, thinking back to the most recent time when you've left the house, did you pack the bag? Were you the one responsible for packing the overnight bag or preparing the diaper bag, making sure that you had everything that you need? If you're answering yes to this question, you might be the default parent. Question number 3, thinking of the week ahead or even the month ahead. Can you recite 3 scheduled appointments or 3 things that you've written on your calendar pertaining to the kids without having to look? If the answer is yes, and if you answered yes to all 3 questions, then you, my friend, might be the default parent. The default parent is not always the mom. The default parent, as I said in the beginning of the video, is anybody who takes on most of the day-to-day work of parenting. Now, I'm not talking about gender-specific roles or the things that you do naturally. For example, if you're a breastfeeding mom, you're naturally going to breastfeed the child. I'm talking about those tasks that are the day-to-day workings of parenting. Who takes on those tasks? Is it mom? Is it dad? Whoever does most of that work is the default parent. So I have identified as the default parent in my home, and I don't think that it's a bad thing or it's a good thing. I think that there are things that have to happen. There are things that need to be done. And depending on how your home is structured, you might fall better into one role or the other. So certain things that kind of contribute to whether or not you're the default parent could be upbringing, how you were raised, how you see your role as a father or as a mother, how you saw your mother, and how you saw your father can bring you into an understanding of whether or not you are the default parent. Also too, the home and the dynamic of your home. Do you work in the home? Do you work outside the home? Are you a stay-at-home mom? All of those things can contribute to whether or not you become the default parent. Now, I'm still trying to figure out how you become the default parent. Do you take that role on yourself? Do the children kind of box you into that role as a default parent? Is it something that happens between you and your partner? I'm still trying to research and understand how you become the default parent. But I think right now it's important that we just simply define it so that we could move on. Of course, you might be thinking that you're going to hear this term quite a bit on this channel, and I think that we will. I am going to explore it a little bit more. I might come back with another video, but for now, I'm just going to define the term so that we can have a basis for how we're going to deal with it and how we're going to understand it going further. So is the default parent a good thing or a bad thing? I don't think it's either. I think that, of course, you're going to define what that means in your own home, and you're going to work it out and deal with all that goes with it, the conversations, the dividing of tasks, the raising of kids, all of that stuff. You're going to discuss it. But is it good or is it bad? I don't want to say yes or no. I just believe that somebody has to do those things that fall under the default parent's umbrella. You can become more responsible in communicating who's going to do what and sticking to that kind of scheduling. But usually it's just easier for the one person to do those things. Now, does that mean that that person should always do those things or has to do those things by themselves all the time? Absolutely not. But there might be times when that person may need to communicate that they need a break, or need to communicate that, hey, I can't do this thing today. Can you take on that responsibility? Now, I'm already starting to get ahead of myself because this goes into how to communicate needs when you are the default parent. And that's something I'm definitely going to address, but not in this video. As I said before, we're just defining the term. So let me get back on schedule for how you can identify whether or not you are the default parent. So something that you have to bear in mind when you're discussing the default parent is understanding the importance or the value of the work that you do as the default parent. Does identifying as the default parent make you a better parent or a more valuable parent? No. Doing more for the kids doesn't mean that you are doing better for the kids or that you are more valuable for the kids. It just means that the work that you're doing is, like the physical work of parenting is something that you do more of. So as a default parent, you're doing more of those day-to-day workings, okay? So it doesn't mean that what I do as a mom or what your partner does is any less or more important or more or less valuable. It's just the divide of the day-to-day tasks. Of course, you guys are both gonna work together to rearing the children and ensuring that they have morals, ensuring that they have values, loving on them and ensuring that they feel confident, that they are feeling loved, that their needs are met. But when it comes to, hey, mommy, can I have a drink? Or, hey, daddy, can I have a drink? How often are you hearing mommy, can I have versus daddy, can I have? If you're hearing their children, and if you're like me, where your kids will sniff you out in the house to ask you something, then you're likely the default parent. Now, I find that most moms fall into the role of the default parent more than dads do. This might be because moms are either more nurturing by nature, I don't know. It might be because we've had longer bonding time with the children as we've carried them for 9 months. It might be because dad works outside the home and mom is a stay-at-home mom, so kids are more familiar with her. These are all questions that I'm definitely going to be asking in the videos to come. Other questions that I definitely want to look at are how you become a default parent, like I discussed before. I want to also explore whether the default parent or the idea of being the default parent is biblical. I also want to discuss the stressors that are attached to being the default parent, and of course, navigating the role as a default parent, the questions to ask. This thing called parenting is difficult. I've said this in probably every video going so far, and I think that it is worth repeating again. It is very difficult to raise and properly raise your children. Now, if you're doing the heart work of raising kids and the physical labor of raising kids, you may find yourself burning out real fast. For me, I feel like even though I do identify as a default parent, I'm still learning and working out ways to even vocalize my needs or to say, hey, I need a break. I'm learning those things. And I think that as I define this thing further and I do a little bit more research, I'm going to find better ways of communicating. And of course, once I'm learning, you're learning, because I'm going to bring it right to you on this channel. And I think until then, this is a really good place to stop and close the video. So what is a default parent? I hope that this video answered that question for you. And until next time, here are some really cool Couch Mom Club videos for you to enjoy. And don't forget to join the club. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button and ring that bell so that you never miss an upload. Follow me on all your favorite social media accounts, and don't forget to check out the merch. The links will be in the description right below that like button. And now it's time to get off the couch and into life.